This story begins in Miami, but it doesn't end there. In fact, it's still unfolding. What you're about to watch isn't just a corporate dispute. It's a chain reaction triggered by a secret sale, detonated in a Delaware courtroom, followed by an even more discreet acquisition mid-litigation, and now echoing through lawsuits across Florida. It has involved some of the largest law firms in the world, with stakes of over $200 million. And at the center of it all, one man excluded, misrepresented, then finally acknowledged. But too late? This is the fight for recognition. This is the story of Rafael Marquez, a software developer and original owner of 5% of HControl Corporation, who refused to become just another tech co-founder left behind in a corporate acquisition. Instead, he fought back against silence, against spin, against big corporate. Miami, late December 2022. It was a press release, but Rafael didn't receive it directly. He found it through a Google alert. That's how he learned his company, HControl, was being sold. The buyer, Antin Infrastructure Partners, a French fund. The problem, nobody told him. He wasn't asked, he wasn't included. And, as he'd soon find out, the buyers hadn't been told about him either. Rafael reached out to Mario Bustamante, the CEO, his partner of 20 years. Let's meet in 2 weeks. Don't worry, everything will be okay. To Rafael, the delay didn't seem like a scheduling issue. It felt like a stall. On January 5th, 2023, Marquez emailed Mario, "It is obvious you are stalling. Tell the buyers I exist or I will tell them myself." Mario forwarded the email to his attorneys and refused further contact. Rafael kept his word. He called everyone, London, New York, Paris, every firm, every fund connected to the deal. The calls started coming in. Buyers, law firms, advisors, they all wanted answers. We know this because soon Marquez received a letter. A cease and desist arrived. This is the first oops moment of many. Attached to the letter, the 2004 software development agreement between HControl and Cariaco, Rafael's company. The software was real, the equity was real, and they were already weeks into a deal with Antin. Then Antin weighed in. They told Mario, "Settle, or the deal is off." Instead of complying with the buyer's demand to settle, he sends in Chris Clark, a high-profile attorney known from other headlines, made news representing Elon Musk and Hunter Biden. Clark delivers Mario's position, direct, unyielding, and with an offer so low. Rafael can only read it as aggressive and ill-willed. Rafael said no. The pressure escalates. Then, Mario dissolves HControl Corporation. Yes, the very company at the heart of the deal. But this wasn't some accident. This wasn't miscommunication. The buyers had warned him, do not do it. Antin made it clear. Dissolving the company would be a breach. He did it anyway. No input from Rafael, no resolution of the ownership dispute. Just a formal letter declaring the company dissolved. And with it, Rafael's 5% stake reclassified as a creditor's claim. It wasn't bold. It was reckless. You don't dissolve the company mid-deal after being told not to and expect the buyer to stay calm. Antin follows with a formal breach of contract notice to Bustamante. They're losing patience. Another offer arrives, higher this time, still lower than expected. But it comes with a catch. If Mario sues Antin, the offer vanishes. The deal's off. Rafael walks. He trusts his instincts. 2 days later, Mario sues Antin in Delaware, claiming for specific performance. He had the lawsuit ready all along. Rafael had been right to reject the offer. He dodged the bullet. Antin countersues, capitalization representations, interim covenants, no-shop provisions, and fraud. Judge Kathleen McCormick, yes, the one from the Twitter Musk trial, is assigned. The issue? Specific performance. Bustamante's corner, Latham and Watkins. Antin's corner, Kirkland and Ellis, claiming Rafael's stake is real, not de minimis. The fight begins, a 3-day trial. They all argue about Rafael without Rafael being in the courtroom. He could not explain his side, not even as witness. He was merely a spectator, one more time, excluded from the sale, excluded from the trial. McCormick agrees. Antin was allowed to terminate the merger agreement based on the breached capitalization representations. She says Rafael was owed 5% while discrediting him. The buyer wins. Anton walks. But the headlines kept going. Not because of the dollar amount, but because this time, the phantom won. Phantom equity to the rescue. A small phantom is still a phantom. Buyer validly terminates transaction. Court declines to imply materiality. The case sent ripples through U.S. legal and private equity circles. Then, retaliation. Mario reactivates HControl Corp. And sues Rafael in Miami for defamation. Rafael's lawyer, the longtime advisor, can't be trial counsel. So Marquez searches for a courtroom lawyer. He finds one, name withheld in this episode. Rafael countersues. They never expected a legal fight back. But the truth is, Marquez had been preparing all year. This time, he wasn't just demanding recognition. He was going to make them prove him wrong. Trial began in Miami. Judge Rebel is assigned. The courtroom was smaller. The stakes even larger. This wasn't about enforcing a contract anymore. This was about ownership, reputation, and whether Rafael had any right to claim the companies he helped build. The plaintiff, HControl, said Rafael owned nothing. Just a software contractor, no equity, no rights. But Rafael says otherwise, and he can prove it. Plus, Judge McCormick had already ruled. Rafael was a 5% stakeholder in HControl. There was no ambiguity. He said HControl was never just a shell to hold code. It was and still is the heart of the network of companies. Telecom, billing, construction, all built around that software. And he owns 5% of the whole group. That group? It had been sold twice. First to Anton, then, quietly, to another buyer, while the Miami case was still active. That buyer? DigitalBridge. Rafael subpoenaed DigitalBridge. Hello, do you guys know I am here? Have you been paying attention? DigitalBridge's response was to ignore him. Just days before a key hearing, DigitalBridge closed the deal anyway and renamed the entire group, Fiber Now, but told no one. As soon as Marquez found out, he did something obvious. He bought stock in DigitalBridge. Now he was a shareholder, waiting for the next 8K or 10K. Something, anything, a disclosure, a mention, a clue. So he could show up and demand answers directly to the board. But no filing came. Not in the first 2 weeks. Not in the first month, not in the second, not in the third. Not in 6 months. Then in Miami, Judge Rebel ruled, stay the claims pending a declaratory judgment. And then, just 2 days later, after 6 months, the silence broke. DigitalBridge went public. Announced the transaction. Hello? Did you guys know I'm here? Had you been paying attention? Rafael was forced to sue again, this time in West Palm Beach, with yet another law firm convinced of his rights. December 2024. 2 years after Rafael found out he was left behind, Marquez sues DigitalBridge. Not for ownership, for damages. For aiding and abetting. For their actions while a case was pending. New court, new judge, new lawsuit, but the same story underneath. The judge, the Honorable Judge Harper. The defendants? DigitalBridge, its subsidiaries. The very entities that bought and renamed the group. The claim? That DigitalBridge knew what was happening in Miami. That they closed the deal anyway, knowing the company's ownership was disputed, and that Rafael's rights were under judicial review. That's not just negligence. To Rafael, it's aiding and abetting. Meanwhile, Miami's litigation takes a wilder turn. Rafael is now asking, who is he fighting against in Miami? Bustamante? He no longer owns the companies. So who's calling the shots? Is Rafael fighting HControl, his old company, or the new HControl, now owned by DigitalBridge? This isn't just confusion, it's evidence. To Rafael, if you can't even name your opponent, the puppeteer is exposed. DigitalBridge pulled the strings all along, aiding and abetting every step. To Marquez and anybody following this saga is crystal clear. In Miami is about ownership, defamation, and a declaratory judgment. In West Palm Beach, it isn't about ownership anymore. This is a lawsuit for damages, for aiding and abetting, for actions taken while the Miami case was and is still litigating. New court, New judge, new lawsuit. And just days after the lawsuit was filed in West Palm Beach, same Miami team that tried to discredit Rafael filed 3 motions to disrupt. Motion to stay, motion to intervene, motion to transfer the case to Miami. Delay, delay, delay. Then Judge Harper said no. He denied both motions. The case stays in West Palm Beach. But the delays kept coming. Discovery slowed, answers withheld. And Digital Bridge? Silent. No apology, no explanation, no correction to the record. So Rafael is ready, again, for trial. Because if they won't admit what happened, he'll make them explain it. In court, under oath. All documentation can be found in the description below. 3 lawsuits, 2 buyers, 1 founder left behind. This wasn't just about 5%. It was about truth, reputation, and what happens when you refuse to disappear. This is the fight for recognition, and it's just getting started.